Okay. Oops.
Okay, good afternoon. David Roy, Fulton Photography again. This is the Butler Plantation in Saint Francisville. It's been in the original family. It's never been sold. It dates back to
60?
1760. And Ann Butler is still living here, and the family is still living here. It's an original plantation. I had an interview with Ann this afternoon, and I'll be putting it up on my YouTube page. And it's a wonderful, wonderful tour. The oak trees are original oak trees that date back 200 years.
One of the early plantations here.
Okay.
And it was started in the 1790s when the family came and they got Spanish land grants, about 1,500 acres. The first cash crop was indigo. Now, it was used to make blue dye, of course, a very valuable commodity in the early days. But indigo is toxic. You also get the basis for cyanide from indigo, and it was not healthy to fool with. In this area, as soon as they invented the cotton gin, they all switched to cotton as the main cash crop for most of the 19th century. This far north on this side of the river, it's a little too cool, a little too hilly to be really good sugarcane country. They grew some, mostly cotton. Until recently, there have been cattle on the place. This goes back almost a mile to Bayou Cerro, which goes out to the Mississippi River and gave them river access from the back of the place where the flatland is. And that's where they did the planting. As you know, this is the only unlevied stretch of the lower Mississippi. There are no levees on the river here, which is why there's nothing built along the river, because it's underwater every spring. Now, the house here is typical of the early ones in this area. They were very simple, raised, rambling, cottage-style houses, strictly built for the climate, built to stay cool. It wasn't until the second and third generations built their houses in the area, mostly in the 1830s and 40s, that you get the big elaborate Greek revival houses, Rosedale being a wonderful example of that period in this area. The early houses were unpretentious, really, but they were very practical. This is listed on the National Register. This is still in the original family, and this is still a full-time family home. The youngest children living here now are the 9th generation of the family here. So it gives people a little feeling for the continuity of history. The house has never been sold out of the family, so it's never been emptied and refurnished. So you see a lot of original things in the house. Okay?
Beautiful.
Now on the grounds, let me say anything about the grounds.
Go ahead.
The live oaks were planted in the 1790s. From these particular trees, they planted the oaks around Grace Church in Saint Francisville in the 1850s. Wonderful trees and great survivors. These are a couple hundred years old. The gardens around the house date from the 1840s and 50s. So do all the urns and benches in front. Those were all cast iron from the 19th century. Real pretty in the spring when the azaleas bloom, but also all through the winter. There are more than 150 camellias in the gardens here that bloom all winter. all the early gardens were so thoughtfully planned, so there's usually a nice fragrance in the air and usually something blooming. So this is just kind of a nice quiet place. We've got 8 cottages, 4 bed and breakfasts, 2 original dependencies, the old kitchen, which was built in 1796, and the little cook's cottage where the cook lived. So everybody gets their own separate house here, kind of private and quiet. The furnishings in the house, we probably have the most important original Victorian formal parlor in the South, all in one piece, never moved since the 1850s, and still in the original upholstery. Wonderful library of thousands and thousands of early books. Got some of the original land grants here. It's just kind of full of stuff, like a house that's never been sold, so they never threw away a thing for 200 years. You kind of get to see a lot of old clothing from the 1820s and around that period. So it's an interesting tour, and it's conducted by a member of the original family. We're open 9 to 5 every day.
Beautiful. Thank you, Anne.